All right. So you know, with the mental health scam going on, my twin sister's completely disowned, and there's no chance of coming back in my life. Just so you know, that's 11 years. God, you guys scam. Every bit of information that I've had people gather, especially in 2016, you guys are fucking losers. Man, you're fucking deadbeats. So the information that was told, oh, this is what Justin was like. No, it wasn't, and I actually backed it up. So I put together for immigration a detailed statute declaration, and I supported it with supporting documents. So my life, the music I've always grown up with, I just saw this just then. Besides it being 80s, because I'm born in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and modern music, like, excuse me, now, which I love, and dance music and so forth, like when you used to go out clubbing like 24 years ago, which I wouldn't sit at home and listen to. Oh, God. Okay. I shouldn't have had fruit and nuts straight after my heavy dinner, but I did. Now I've got gastric reflux. Um, I've always listened to jazz music. Always. And is this something that your family does? Yes. Now, Nan, I took my Nan to see the Rat Pack play it was 2003. I've got the brochure still. So the Rat Pack, when it was playing in Enmore, there near Marrickville, around that area. Let me see. Still got the brochure for it. So I do keep all my. So I grew up with the theatre, idiots, and jazz, and it's going to be here somewhere. So you can see all my, you know, stuff to do with theatre. It must be just here somewhere. I would have had it out not long ago. Looking at, here we go. Is that it? Here we go. The Rat Pack. I've got Nan's program. So I used to collect. I've got programs missing. So my entire life, I grew up with the theatre. My entire life, since a little kid, I grew up with the theatre. So off now. I grew up listening to theatre music. I grew up listening to jazz music. I grew up listening to, um, you know, the Sympathy Orchestra. I grew up listening to classical. And here's the Rat Pack that I took Nan to go and see on our date night back in 2003. It was just after Pop's dog Girlie died. See, to Lola. Because my Nan's favourite song was Summertime by Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong. And here's my one, the Rat Pack, which I should say to Justin on it. So we're at one of our great date nights, my grandmother Lola and myself. We used to go on date nights. It's very close to my Nana. She was lovely. I just, the only issues I have with her is she never stood up to her daughters. Her daughters are the problem, see? So this is one of our date nights. So Nan would always listen to jazz. My great grandmother and my great uncle loved jazz and classical. So, you know, and the whole thing about Nan loving Elvis Presley, well, it's, you know, their era, but Mum was born on Elvis Presley's 21st birthday. So, Nan was like, oh, of course we had to, because, you know, Nan and Pop used to tell me everything. Like everything, even the stuff, like we were so close and transparent. So I knew how they felt, I knew what they went through, I knew the emotions they went through after losing their two sons before Mum was born. I knew the feelings towards my mum. I knew what my Nan went through emotionally, because I was so close to my Nan Lola and so close to my Pop. Like Amanda was Pop's favourite, but I was so close to Reg, especially in his older age. Like I used to go and visit him when he was having chemotherapy and radiation therapy in Concord Hospital. Like we used to do so much together. Myself and my grandparents, they were my parents to me. Like they loved Amanda and I more than they loved their own children. That's funny enough, and they did say this exact words, that if we could have just had you and your sister, we would have been happy not having our kids. They didn't like their kids. They didn't really like their kids at all, but they loved how we turned out. And a lot of that is because my influence was Big Nan, Mary, Nan, so Lola's mother, and Lola's uncle, Leo Patrick Sayer, who I call Uncle Fred. We all call Uncle Fred, because his first name was Frederick Goff. I've already explained that. I'm going to explain that in this. Oh, no, I'll explain it. Okay. Nan's grandmother, Julia Sayers' sister was May Goff. Julia Sayers' other sister was Annie Williams Shawkner. May Goff and Annie Williams Shawkner lived in Bellevue Hill. Julia Sayer lived in Wellington, New South Wales. So it is New South Wales still, Wellington? Yeah. It's a very cold area that snows. It's where the racing industry used to be. It was a big horse area. They're from the city, but the racing industry took them to Wellington, New South Wales. That was to do with Julia's husband, George Sayer, who is from England. And Julia's from Australia. So Julia's maiden name's Ryan, but her mother's not from Australia. When Nan said her mother's French and her father's Irish, Bridget Dufresne was Julia's mother, Julia Ryan's mother, and Matthew Joseph Ryan was her father. Anyway, there. So Frederick was Frederick Goff first because he was May Goff, Julia's sister's son. And there's stories behind that Nan told me. But anyway, I'm not going to repeat that here. Whether it was May's actual biological son or not, but it was still her son with her husband. Okay, there was some stories around family stuff there. Anyway, when she lost her husband, he died. May Goff put Uncle Frederick Goff, up for adoption, and May Goff's sister, Julia Sayer, adopted Uncle Fred, and he became Leo Patrick Sayer. So instead of being my great-grandmother's cousin, he became my great-grandmother's brother. Now, I grew up with my great-uncle, Leo Patrick Sayer. He passed away when I was 23. I grew up with my great-grandmother. She passed away when I was about 16. My influence in life, especially my snobbiness, solely comes from their posh behaviour. And my nana used to always say her mother, I asked Nan Lola, how come Big Nan, because that's what we call Mary, Big Nan, or Maisie, spoke, like, how come she talks the way she does? And Nan said, like, she spoke with an accent. She spoke different. And Lola said, oh, Justin, your Big Nana talks with a plum in her mouth. Like that. So I'm a little kid thinking that she walks around with a plum in her mouth. Well, that's what makes her talk different. So she used to talk very posh. So did Uncle Fred, they talk very posh. So Reg and Lola like that. Reg never wanted any influence from his family into his children, and what he felt when he grew older was that the entire behaviour of his kids was solely his family. It's like they inherited 90% of his Purdy's side and nothing of his wife's side, and he didn't like it. So he was really happy that Amanda and I turned out very different, because that's what he was trying to raise Mum to be, very different, more like his wife's family. They all failed him. So going back to it, my music's always been the same type of music. I've always listened to jazz. And Leo McHugh from high school, his mother is Carolyn McHugh, his father's Michael McHugh, his brother's Patrick McHugh, but I wouldn't recognise Patrick. Patrick wasn't in my year. Leo McHugh and I, we went and saw jazz play at the Seymour Centre in Newtown back in around 2007. It was before I was mugged. And we went and saw it with my partner then, John. And it was nice because I like jazz. I know Leo likes jazz. I know Leo likes... Well, as far as I remember, he likes classic. He was always involved in the band. So was Jacinta Graham. She was involved in the band. So these are friends I had in high school. We were very similar. I wasn't that rebel. Like, I was more of a nerd. Well, not really a nerd. I wasn't a man nerd. I wasn't a book nerd. I was involved in theatre. I was involved in the arts. I was, cultured. So Leo McHugh, as far as I know, he liked... we went and saw the Symphony Orchestra play in 1995 at the Opera House. So, according to that, I would assume that Leo McHugh would like classical music, like I like classical music, and I know he likes jazz music. So I know that a friend of mine from high school likes jazz music, and I like jazz music, and I would assume he likes classical music because we did sit at the Symphony Orchestra in the Opera House, listen to the Symphony Orchestra in the Opera House in 1995. So I would assume he likes classical. So my taste in music has never changed. I've never changed. What has been very odd is the description that organisations gathered about me, and I'm talking about some crisis groupism, acute care, a reach out. It's like, those descriptions don't relate to me. They literally do not relate to me. You've got information, I can tell you now who they do relate to. You have got a confusion there with the high school because you described Justin Pascoe exactly. I'm not Justin Pascoe, and that's easily when you're trying to change my hair colour. Because my photos, my high school photos, you can see my hair's jet black. And you can see that even in year 9, my hair's naturally jet black. There was a time when we were going up to Ballender, so up to Lennox Head, and there's this spray. It was called, now hang on, it's not Sonny Boy, was it Sunkissed or something? It's a spray. It looks like a spray on gel, and I used to spray it in my hair and lay out near the Tea Tree Lake there in Ballender and get a suntan while my hair was bleaching and my hair looked like friggin' straw. I never went blonde. It's because I was a blonde baby, but it grew up. By the time I was 4, my hair was black. This is how I was by the time. Look, this is exactly how I looked as a kid, but I had a mole on my nose, so I looked like an. I looked so different to my whole family, so I know exactly how my dad's father felt. Because my dad's father stands out like a sore thumb in photographs. He looks like the Arab in amongst Jews, basically, like he does. Like with the photo with his wife's family. There's a photo with Stanley Fleming, my pop, and Ruby Jean's family. And in that photo, Ruby Jean's family, they're all blonde hair, blue eyes, and very hook noses and very Jewish looking. And next to my nana is her husband, my pop, Stanley, and he looks like the Middle Eastern guy in amongst, all these Jewish people. That's what it looks like. It's funny. I was looking at the photo going, this photo, like Pop stands out like a sore thumb, like Stanley, because Nana looked, it was Nan's blue eyes that did it. Nan had the most stunning blue eyes and a hook nose with curly hair. She looked Jewish. She wasn't. But saying that, here we go. There has been talk about parts of Dad's side of the family. Oh, I'm Roman Catholic. Oh, I'm strict Roman Catholic, some mum's side. It goes back hundreds of years. So I'm baptised because of mum's side of the family, but my dad's a different religion. But Dad's father was raised with the church not with the church, but he was strict religion with Edith Kavanagh in Botany Bay. Here we go, we're going to jump around here. So I asked Nan's brother, so Nan Ruby asked her brother, Uncle George Hill, when he stayed with me in Surrey Hills. And I asked Uncle George Hill, I said, look, because his parents, I think, passed away before I was born. I said, I asked about his parents. I asked about Ada Gray. I asked about the history. So he knew a lot of the history of his family. He knew, they all know that his father, so Frank Edward Hill, was born in Dunedin, New Zealand. And he knows his grandparents. So I asked him about his grandparents, like Frank's parents. Kate Elizabeth Keeling King is from Southampton. And is it... Oh, God. It's not... I can't think of his grandfather's name off the top of my head right now. It'll come to me. Anyway. He's from London. But there was the part there because of the German look. Because Frank Edward Hill looked extremely German. So Nan's father looked extremely German. Even though he's from descendants of London and Southampton. And Nan's mother, Ada Gray, looked extremely Jewish. It's like, okay, well then that... Because there's not one... Like this ridiculous stuff, I find this with American immigration. I'm like, well, there's not one direct line of descendants. Because even on mum's side, it goes French, Irish, English. French, Irish, English, Irish, English. Some of that. Although mum always said that the Purdy was French. Or anyway. So yeah, that's mum's side. There's not one direct descendants of just one nationality or two nationalities. There's a whole group of nationalities. And that's because we are Australian. And my mum's younger sister, even Mary Ann Purdy, her husband's Richard Michalski. Richard Michalski's Polish. So even if we go with him, he's Polish, but his grandmother's Russian. His auntie Nadia, who's married to his uncle John Michalski. Nadia Michalski's Macedonian, and he's got another auntie that's Czech Republic. So it's just with Uncle Richard alone, there's Uncle Richard. Uncle Richard's Polish. Oh, hang on, we haven't even started on his mother, Annette's descendant. Isn't Annette got Spanish in her or something? I don't even know where Annette's history is from, but Annette's husband, my Uncle Richard's father, Mr. Michalski, so Mr. Michalski's Polish, his mother's Russian, his brother's wife's Macedonian. So my uncle has Macedonian, Polish, Russian, and former Czech Republic. That's just on my auntie Marianne Michalski's husband's side of the family that I grew up with since I was 4 years of age. So it's not that simple because my cousins are Polish. So my cousins on my mum's side are Polish. And it's the same as dad's side. But then you've got Lebanese on your dad's side. Exactly. It's not that simple because I have a massive amount of mixed nationalities in my family. It's not so simple to say that I'm just from the UK because I'm not just from the UK. Well, geez, even in my own descendants, I'm not. One mum's side is, except for the French, but dad's side definitely isn't when it comes from his father. So it's not as simple as to say what people what even immigrants, immigration into America want me to say. I'm like, well, I can't say that because it's not that simple. You seem to want, oh, 1 minute. He's like, it seems to be very a Republican thing, but they want it to just be Irish or just be English or just be Scottish. I'm like, but it's not. Like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's not. So it's not just one descendant. It's a whole mix of nationalities that makes a family. So we're not just one nationality. So because it'd be like, well, 1 minute it's this, and so that's because I'm multicultural within my own family. I mean, there's Lebanese in my family. My cousin Jessica's daughter is half Brazilian. You're not going to just get this sort of one descendant when it comes to multiculturalism of 200 years. I mean, and that's what they were done. Understands like you can't just get one descendant out of my family because we, you know, maybe what is 150 years ago you may have been able to, but you've got a country that's more multiculturalism than America, which is what Australia is because it is, because we just mixed. So I think as soon as, and I think if I'm going to give this too much energy, but I've often said, okay, you have overseas countries such as America. They're so focused on, oh yes, but the British. I said, okay, the British, and I'm all for England, as anyone would know, because my grandparents were. However, but you seem to ignore the fact that there was a race to get here and colonize Australia first. Let's go back. 1600s, it was the Dutch. The Dutch found Australia. It was on the maps with the Dutch. They knew where it was. They thought it was they couldn't do anything with it in the 1600s. So then the king back then of England in the 1700s, which is 1770, from memory of my history lessons. Education, guys. No, it's a powerful thing. 1770s when the King of England sent Captain Cook down to explore Australia to see if they could do anything with it. So he did. They went back to England and started building ships. This is the fact. During that period of time, that was the uproar of the citizens in France. France was trying to race England to get to Australia. France has been in Sydney since 1788, the same time that the British was here. They were a day late. That's why there's a La Perouse. And I can't, it's like, man, if you live in Sydney, why do you think the suburb's called La Perouse? Because that's the French ship that was in Sydney. French has been in Sydney as long as English and Irish. And the biggest influx of migration to ever have happened after that was in the 1860s, and that was the North Italians. So we're talking about, blonde hair, blue eyes, skin that burns, freckles, green eyes, everything that you wouldn't expect to be Italian because people think Italian's dark. It's like, no. Only Sicilians are dark. Italians are fair. Italians are very, like, look at Austria. So it was the North Italians that fled Austria's regime. There was the North Italian War. How do people not know history? This frustrates me. In the 1860s, there was a war between North Italy and Austria. It's the Italian War. And a lot of Italians, they, fled. So a lot of North Italians fled, and they fled to Australia, they fled to Sydney, and they fled to Melbourne. And that's a fact. And that's where I've even said to people, I was like, well, that's where you get that Bondi, blonde hair, blue eyes, tan skin. It comes from the North Italians. They came here, they changed their names to an English-sounding name. It's North Italy, so you're not going to get names like Giovanni and stuff like this. Like, like a southern name. You're not going to get things like, that's going to sound like you're going to get very northern names, And so you're talking about up near the border of, North Italy, which is up near the border of Austria, and they came to Sydney. That was one of the biggest migrations ever in history, outside of the like after the settlers, was the North Italian regime. The North Italian that fled the regime coming here in the 1860s. It's just history. It's history that I'm like, seriously. It's like, okay, wow. Apparently, I didn't pay attention. Are you kidding me? How do you not, like, this is our history. This is Australian history, but it's because what gets shoved down people's throats is the British, Captain Cook. It's like, oh, this is a broken record. Do you know anything else? Because when France actually came here, they were a day late, which is why you've got the Polynesian islands. So you've got New Caledonia, which is not too far from Sydney, is because they end up taking over those islands instead. They were late. They were a day late. They got lost on the way. Otherwise, we'll be French. But they have been here about a day or two after it was, and you can go check out these records. They're in New South Wales State Library. All the records and documents to do with this, that if they weren't late and if they had to beat the British, this country would be French. I think that's a big thing to be taught in history. That during the time, it was exactly the same time. If they had a faster ship, if they weren't late, if they took a faster route, this would not have been colonised and we would not be a Commonwealth country. We would be under France. And I think that is where people don't realise that if you want to talk about stuff, talk about how history could have happened. This could have been a French country, but we have had France here since 1788. Since 1788, it was here exact the same time as the British, but they couldn't claim it because it was already claimed by the British and colonized. But French were here, working alongside British and Irish. So it was French. So French came with their own ships. And if you want to see the records of that, you can go and find that out in the New South Wales State Library. But I find this to be bizarre that the focus in history, and it's because a lot of people do public schools and not private. If you go to a private school, you get an education. If you go to a public school, it's a public school. You get what you pay for, which is nothing. And I find this, it's like, well, I went to a private school. Like my education started really strong when I was 4. Like I started at St. Aidan's Roman Catholic School in 1984. I was 4, turning 5 when I started there. And then I Lady Rosary College in 1992. Like you will find that the education in a private school is a lot more vast because you get what you pay for. You're going to get longer lessons, longer hours. There's going to be more into it. You're not going to get the basics. You're going to get, such a higher level of learning. I'm not saying that to be a snob, even though I am, but it's the facts. I'm all for private school over public. Anything that is public, you're going to get the basics. You're not going to get anything. You get what you pay for. Okay, that's the life. That's capitalism. No, you get what you pay for. You're going to have a dumb society if you have everyone in the public sector. People that go to public schools aren't that great. They're the ones that have to really push at university. They're the ones that have to, I've got cousins that went to public schools and they've made it for themselves. But like before they went to university, it's like, oh God. Before they went to higher learning and studied more, it was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, you've got to get out there. And I've got cousins where I've actually sat down with my cousin Joan Hillier, who was a university lecturer. She used to lecture history in university at Sydney University. And I used to meet up with her in Glebe every Tuesday before she moved and was headhunted to go up north near Newcastle. And she runs a school. I think she runs the English department there as well. And then we used to catch up all the time in Surrey Hills. She used to always be down for the Teachers Federation. And I'll be talking with her. So my cousin's on my dad's side. And there'll be stuff she goes, oh, I don't know that history. I know this history. And it feels comfortable to be around dad's side and just to talk. And there'll be she goes, I don't know that. But when I was in France, like it's this sort of back and forth. It's back and forth. When they don't want to be dickheads, when they, because they are women that do, stupid stuff. Like I said, I'm really close to Joan Hillier's brother, Jeffrey, my cousin. Hang on, Baxter. And he's, I think they're public schooled, pretty sure. Do they get nits at public schools? I went to a private school, we don't get things like that. We don't get scaves and stuff. Sorry, that's solely a public school thing. Yeah, so, hang on, I'm coming. You want me? I've got to wash up, mister, and do the ironing. So, I've got to wash up and do the ironing. Look at him. All staunch because I'm not giving him attention. He's like, will you put your phone down? Will you put your phone down? Look how staunch he is. Come here. Come here. He's so staunch. All right. Yeah. So again, it's just an education. It's exposure. And I've said again that the organisations who you gathered information about were Shane Childs, Daniel Rackley, Justin Pascoe, and Darren Taylor. I'm neither any of those people, but the information that you had solely related to those people, and it was very clear. And I end up getting harassed with people that claim they knew me who don't, then try to change how I look. And I'm like, you're trying to change my hair color? Like, that's insane. Like, you literally, I said 11 years ago, the information you have, where you gathered it from, even if you gathered it from me being a smart ass and so forth, but it doesn't relate to me. You've actually got information that relates to Shane Childs, Daniel Rackley, so Shane Childs' mum's nephew, Daniel Rackley, mum's stepson, Darren Taylor. Okay, yep, we were in similar musicals together, and Justin Pascoe, same school but different person. And I actually said that back years ago. So all the gathered information is just false. The whole thing's false. And I've been telling organisations now for years. It's like, we're still relying on that, because I've actually got your documents that social workers have some acute care and reach out organisation. I've been reading it. It's like, but that doesn't relate to me. Like, so there's stuff that these losers have. I'm like, that doesn't relate to me. Oh, they've got information. Like, so they've actually said I was bullied at school. I'm like, wait a minute. And I was like, so then I went and pulled out my year 10 yearbook. I was like, oh, fuck off. Like, you're talking about Justin Pascoe, you fucking losers. So you've literally got social workers with information to Justin Pascoe. So then I pulled out my year 10 yearbook, and there's from like the group of friends that I had in high school. So then some fuckwit goes, oh, wasn't this? I said, read. There's my year 10 yearbook. All my friends are on my, like that I had in high school, on my year 10 yearbook. The groups I hung around with are on my year 10 yearbook. Like, so I can speak for myself, thanks. And, and there's a lot on there where they're like, keep in touch or I'll cry. I'm like, man, I'm going to cry now that I didn't keep in touch with you guys. We had so much fun. Like, seriously. So I'm reading some fuckwit notes from some deadbeat mental health workers. I'm like, fuck, man, you just should just give me a blank check. I'll write the figure of the amount that I should be paid on it. And we're talking about a lot more than 200,000 I had in savings. How fucking dumb. Like, I'm talking about all the information that medical New South Wales fucking medical health industry is dumb. You broke privacy laws. That privacy states, there's privacy laws for a reason. They state the information that you were meant to be gathered, you're supposed to be actually gathering it through. Well, you're supposed to be following the privacy laws, which mean information to do with me is supposed to come from me. And if I tell you that what you have is incorrect, you have to correct it. I mean, other than that, if it's something, for an example, well, we've got Justin, Justin's in hospital, he break his leg. That's correct. But if you're gathering information, like things like that, that's different. But if you've got information where it says, for an example, well, so-and-so told us, that's breaking privacy laws. You're meant to be gathering information and storing it correctly as per the privacy laws state, and no one did. I've requested, it's cost me a fortune. I've got documents I've read from social workers, support workers, acute care crisis group, reach out organisations. I'm sitting back going, you want me to curb my attitude towards you fuckwits? I've read the fucking statements, you guys. You guys are losers. Doesn't relate to me. Anyway, that's all the subjects I studied at Lady Rosewood College. So these are all the subjects. There we go. Yeah, private school is much better than public. And then somebody said that I have to read up because there's blocked out. It's like, okay, so somebody it's blocked. I'm like, oh, that sounds like that came from Carol. So I moved back home to Sydney in 95. I'm from Sydney, so I decided to move back home. Not for any, well, I can't believe I have to explain that. Why do I need to explain that I moved back home to Sydney? I don't. I just moved back home to Sydney. I'm born and raised in Sydney. Wow. Anyway, and Amanda changed high schools. Because after year 10, Mum said she wasn't going to pay for private school anymore. So, because Amanda was going to go on and finish year 11 and 12 at the private school, and Mum cut our private school funding. And Amanda had to pay her own school fees. So for year 11 and 12, she went to a public school. But I didn't go there. I was back home living in Sydney. And I went to TAFE College. So when we turned 16, Mum cut our education and said we have to pay for it. So Amanda even paid for her own university fees. and work. So we had to work from the age of 16. We had to work and pay for the rest of our education. Mum said she wasn't paying for our education anymore. She reckons that she was paying our private school fees off until we were adults. So, and that's the truth.